Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, trade tensions have emerged as a leading topic at the Boao Forum for Asia, underway now in southern China. The Chinese foreign ministers called for dialogue leading to peace in the Middle East in a phone call with his Iranian counterpart. And China's marked 10 years for its transformative guidelines for improving and developing the Yangtze River economy and ecology. In business, an annual platform for sci-tech innovation is now underway in Beijing. In sports, tennis star Jannik Sinner continues to set records on tour. In culture and entertainment, Chinese films are inspiring a springtime travel boom. Now the day's top stories. Trade tensions have once again emerged as a key issue at this year's Boao Forum for Asia. It's day 2 of the annual event in southern China. Discussions today have centered on AI, regional cooperation, climate change, and sustainable development goals. Delegates from around the world are meeting to explore ways to enhance coordination among markets and to better meet the financial needs of developing countries. They're also discussing ways to tackle a widening financing gap that's putting pressure on green development. Chen Tong spoke with delegates at the scene to find out more.
This session, as reflected by the packed seats, is one of the most popular panels this year. New global trade landscape under tariff wars. Of course, it's a hot topic.
But trade tensions have been discussed repeatedly. Rather than continuing to debate them, what matters more is solving the problems.
1 hour before the tariff panel began, another one on strengthening cooperation was ongoing.
Where coordination is more valuable, governments need to come together as well.
These delegates representing Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and Asia Pacific are talking about coordination. But what exactly should it be addressed?
AI. China will be playing a driving force in promoting this digital transformation. If China loses, ASEAN will lose. If ASEAN loses, China will also not benefit from it.
I think right now it's the most exciting thing, if you like, is artificial intelligence.
In fact, progress has already been made. In October last year, the China-ASEAN Free Trade Area 3.0 upgrade protocol was officially signed, with digital economy and artificial intelligence as key cooperation areas. In November, APEC's first ever top-level AI initiative was released. These forms of cooperation are significant not only within Asia, but also for other economies. Sitting next to me is the chief representative of the Canada-China Business Council, who is attending the conference for the first time.
We believe also that there's opportunities for win-win partnerships in terms of business cooperation between Canadian and Chinese businesses, not only here, but also throughout the region. So for us to understand and hear different experts sharing some of their perspectives, it's greatly enriching for us and very important as well, so we can share some of those perspectives with our members.
And this is what the Boao Forum for Asia is set to focus on. AI development, climate change, financial stability, a wider range of topics will be covered during the 4-day conference.
The world should go towards a free trade as it has been educated in the past, and I'm sure it will soon be over.
So you are still optimistic about the future?
Yes, of course, one has to be.
On the first day of the conference, a flagship report on Asian economic outlook and integration was released. The report stated regional cooperation is strongly underpinning economic development in Asia. So I think though problems could not be solved immediately, at least we are working steadily toward that goal.
That was Chen Tong joining delegates at the Boao Forum to discuss how Asian countries could work together to address growing trade frictions around the world. The chair of ACE Robotics says the smart economy is a key engine of future growth. Wang Xiaogang is attending this year's Boao Forum for Asia in Hainan. And he says China is taking a leading role in advancing global AI development and driving the transition toward the smart economy.
The smart economy essentially refers to a new set of productive forces driven by artificial intelligence, which is set to become a key engine of future growth. They include robotics, large language models, and AI agents. We all see how profoundly AI is transforming so many industries, from operations to industrial structures. AI is also extremely useful for startups, helping them magnify their capabilities. It allows small companies with just dozens of employees to do projects that used to take hundreds or thousands of people to finish. This would inject great vitality to our economy.
Wang adds that Chinese manufacturing is transforming from labor-intensive to intelligent, and that its ability to innovate is gaining global recognition with more people learning from China's experience. Artificial intelligence is in the spotlight at the forum in South China, and Chinese robotics entrepreneurs are zeroing in on the development of AI agents and the future of the country's smart economy. A Hong Kong business leader is calling for closer cooperation between the Special Administrative Region and Hainan through what he describes as a dual port linkage. Dr. Jonathan Choi Kun Shum, chairman of the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, says that after over a decade of attending the Boao Forum, he's witnessed Hainan's remarkable transformation. Speaking with Song Rei-shin on the sidelines of the forum's annual conference, Choi notes that Hainan's free trade port policies, including zero tariffs and low corporate taxes, are creating strong incentives for business.
What new signals about Hainan have you picked up at this year's forum?
I have joined the forum for almost 15 years, and every day is changing. This year is very special because it joined already the free port facility now. And I think the main signal that I get this time is Hainan would like to be a key player in trade and investment. They are working closely and will learn from Hong Kong and Singapore. And I feel that they would like to work closely with the RCEP and Hong Kong. And as a Hong Kong, there's so-called the dual port linkage. That is Hong Kong and Hainan. We will be working closely with them. And other than that, they are also very interested in AI development. As you know that AI plus is the future. That's why for this FTP, they would like to emphasize more on AI development in every aspect.
You serve as a political advisor in China, but you are also a seasoned entrepreneur. And from a business perspective, now that the Hainan Free Trade Port has entered full customers operation, what are the most compelling aspects of Hainan's innovation for traditional Asian enterprises that are feeling the pressure to transform?
The new opportunity, I would like to say, is the tariff. For example, it is FTP. Basically, most of the product imported into Hainan is tax zero. And another very interesting policy is if they import the raw material from other countries, if it is value added for 30%, if it's after the manufacturing and if it's shipped to mainland China, it is zero tax. This is, I think, is very attractive. And then for those who do the business in the Hainan, the corporate tax now is only 15%.
And then let me bring Hong Kong into the big picture. This year marks the beginning of China's 15th five-year plan, and Hong Kong has been actively aligning its development strategies with the national agenda. So from your perspective as a leader in Hong Kong's business community, how should Hong Kong position itself to maximize its unique strength?
It is the first time for Hong Kong to have own five-year plan to align with the national 15th five-year plan. And as you know that, according to the five-year plan, we position more on, firstly, financial center, the shipping center, and the trade center. Other than that, a new thing is coming up is high technology center. And also is the how to attract the talent to be into Hong Kong. This is basically our government's idea. Other than that, the 15th five-year plan also mentioned about the internationalization of renminbi. Therefore, this is a new ground that we can work with, especially the asset management and also the crisis management for the financial sector. And another point is on the legal profession. As you know that Hong Kong is very strong in the modern service industry, especially on the legal side. Therefore, on mediation, arbitration, and all this, the central government led Hong Kong to have the arbitration center in Hong Kong. And also recently, the mediation center is also already done in Hong Kong. And also the IB trading center is also mentioned in the 15th five-year plan. And last but not least is the Hong Kong is a place for East meets West. Therefore, the cultural center is also positioned in Hong Kong to tell Hong Kong and China's story well.
That was Dr. Jonathan Choi Kun Shum, chairman of the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. Coming up, China's foreign minister has spoken with his Iranian counterpart about seeking peace in the Middle East.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
It's 11 past the hour. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's had a phone call with his Iranian counterpart, stressing that all hotspot issues should be resolved through dialogue and negotiation rather than the use of force. Abbas Araghchi briefed Wang on the latest regional developments, thanking China for its emergency humanitarian assistance. He stressed Iran's commitment to achieving an end to the conflict instead of a temporary ceasefire. He also said the Strait of Hormuz remains open and safe for international shipping. Wang Yi reiterated China's position that dialogue's preferable to continued fighting, calling on all parties to seize opportunities for peace and begin negotiations as soon as possible. The senior diplomat added that China will maintain an objective and impartial stance, oppose violations of sovereignty, and continue working to promote a ceasefire and regional stability. Beijing says it'll double down on playing a constructive role in promoting peace and an end to hostilities. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian added that China's diplomatic mediation efforts will not stop so long as the conflict rages on. Meantime, China's special envoy on Middle East affairs has met with envoys from Gulf Cooperation Council countries. Jai Jun stressed that China attaches importance to the legitimate security concerns of Gulf states and supports their efforts to safeguard sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity. He added that China is willing to maintain close communication and continue working to help ease tensions. Gulf envoys shared their views on the current situation and expressed hope that China would play a greater role in promoting an early return to peace and stability in the region. U.S. President Donald Trump says Washington's making progress in its efforts to negotiate a ceasefire with Iran. He says his administration is talking to the right people, with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio involved in the discussions. Iran's denied any talks with the U.S., calling Trump's claims fake news. Media reports say that the U.S. has sent Iran a 15-point peace plan via Pakistan. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has signaled willingness to host talks between Washington and Tehran. Israeli ambassador to the UN Danny Danon says Tel Aviv is not part of any reported talks. He adds that Israel will continue to attack military targets in Iran. Former CIA Director John Brennan has weighed in on Tehran and Washington's disputed claims, saying he believes Iran over Trump.
Well, I tend to believe Iran more than I do Donald Trump. The Iranians do hold more cards right now than the Trump administration ever thought they had. Mm-hmm.
Hussein Kanani Moghadam is a former commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. He says Trump is employing a deception strategy. During a recent interview with China Media Group, Moghadam stressed the primary goal is to stabilize oil and energy prices at the start of the new week. He added that the 5-day delay in attacking Iran's energy infrastructure is intended to buy time for U.S. forces to arrive in the region and potentially assert control over Iranian islands. Moghadam also warned that Iran will not reopen the Strait of Hormuz as long as U.S. troops remain in the Middle East and without international guarantees that the U.S. and Israel will not launch further attacks. He said Iran's military operations will continue and that no negotiations will take place. Despite the rhetoric of ceasefire talk, the Pentagon has reportedly ordered about 2,000 soldiers from the Army's 82nd Airborne Division to begin moving to the Middle East, with more in the coming days. The forces will add to the 50,000 U.S. troops already in the region and accelerate Washington's massive U.S. military buildup there, fueling fears of a larger conflict. U.S. President Donald Trump's approval rating has dropped to its lowest level since the start of his second term. A Reuters Ipsos poll found that 36% of U.S. citizens approve of Trump's job performance. That's down from 40% recorded in a poll last week. He said the drop is largely driven by surging fuel prices and widespread disapproval of the war against Iran. The most recent poll showed that just 25% of respondents approve of Trump's handling of the cost of living. In just over 3 weeks, fallout from the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran has taken its toll on many nations. The Philippines became the first country to declare a state of national energy emergency for a year, saying its current fuel supply is only enough for roughly 45 days. On Tuesday, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the conflict has imposed an imminent danger on the Philippines' energy supply. He will lead a committee to ensure the orderly movement, supply, distribution, and availability of essential goods, including fuel and food. The Philippines imports nearly all of its crude oil from the Middle East. Transport workers and consumer groups will stage a 2-day strike starting Thursday to protest fuel price increases. Slovenia has placed restrictions on diesel purchases amid a nationwide fuel shortage. The government has also released strategic reserves to cope with global supply disruptions and to keep prices stable. Aliosa Milenkovic reports.
Queues are forming at fuel stations across Slovenia, with some locations reporting diesel shortages. Notices warn customers about limited availability of certain fuels. But despite the situation, many drivers say they are not panic buying.
I think that's nonsense. Even if the price goes up for 10 cents, it is not a disaster.
I wish that they would have released fuel reserves sooner and bought more reserves of the fuel for which we knew a month ago there was going to be difficulties.
People we spoke with say they are not afraid of increased prices or a lack of fuel. However, there are lines forming at almost all fuel stations, and some restrictions are already being imposed across the country. The government has released some of its strategic fuel reserves to ease pressure and speed up supply. Many distributors store fuel abroad, and transport capacity has struggled to keep up with the sudden spike in demand. Analysts say it continues to rise.
They still remember the 2022 when the prices were higher for a longer period of time. So they're somehow hoarding the gasoline if they can. They're buying as much as they can. I think that's the main reason.
Some fuel chains have introduced limit on diesel purchases, restricting how much customers can buy. And cross-border demand is also attributed to excessive purchasing, as lower prices in Slovenia attract buyers from surrounding countries.
Slovenia has the lowest price within all the neighboring countries, and it's also spring, so a lot of farmers buy gasoline to do some farming on the fields.
Analysts warn that a period of stable, low fuel prices in Slovenia may be coming to an end.
That was Aliosa Milenkovic reporting. Coming up, China's marking 10 years of its transformative guidelines for development along the Yangtze River.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
At 19 past the hour. A Wednesday marks the 10th anniversary of the approval of the Guidelines for Development along the Yangtze River Economic Belt, which mapped out the blueprint for developing the areas along the longest river in China. Chijie reports.
The Yangtze River Economic Belt spans 11 provinces and municipalities, accounting for nearly half of China's GDP. The guidelines set a series of goals, including improving the quality of the water and the aquatic ecosystem, boosting innovation-driven growth, building businesses and industrial clusters, and expanding opening up. The results concerning the restoration of the ecosystem are striking. The share of high-quality water sections in the Yangtze River basin has climbed from 82% in 2016 to over 98%. Biodiversity is also making a comeback. the population of the iconic Yangtze finless porpoises surpassed 1,200 in 2023, while over 340 native fish species were recorded between 2021 and 24. China also imposed a 10-year fishing ban across key waters of the Yangtze River basin. The ecological payoff has become visible, with the Chongqing stretch of the Yangtze recording over 120 fish species, 52 more than before the ban. Affected fishers have received support, with many moving on to work as river wardens. Others took jobs in factories or started own businesses. The average annual income of former fishers in Chongqing surpassed the equivalent of $6,800 in 2024. That's 8% higher than before the ban. The country is also reconciling economic growth with long-term environmental resilience. The economic output of the Yangtze River economic belt has more than doubled over the past decade, with its share of the country's GDP rising to 47%. The belt has also emerged as one of the most dynamic innovation hubs in China, as technological advances have translated into industrial strength and global competitiveness. It has produced a number of tech companies such as artificial intelligence startup DeepSeek and robotics maker Unitree, along with the rise of world-class industrial clusters in sectors like car manufacturing and electronic information. The Yangtze River Delta has emerged as the country's largest automotive manufacturing hub, accounting for nearly 40% of China's new energy vehicle output and over a quarter of global production. Officials say the next phase of Yangtze River protection will hinge on better use of technology, closer coordination between pollution control and carbon reduction, and the development of market-based systems for environmental governance. For the Beijing Hour, this is Qi Zhi.
Modern society generates a torrent of data, straining the energy and space resources of coastal megacities. And China's East Data West Computing Initiative addresses this by building a national data highway. 2 CGTN reporters are now positioned at each end of this new corridor to see this digital journey in action.
Every single day in Shanghai starts with a digital heartbeat. A tap to pay for coffee, a swipe to order lunch, a click to book a ride. And every bite of it forms an invisible current, a digital river flowing beneath the city, shaping millions of lives.
All that digital activity happening right here on these streets creates a tidal wave of information, and that data needs a home. In a city as dense and dynamic as Shanghai, the critical question is, where do you put it all?
The answer begins here, inside one of Shanghai's critical data hubs. These facilities are the nerve centers handling the city's most time-sensitive data, where the demand for speed is absolute.
uCloud's Shanghai Data Center is a core engine of the Yangtze River Delta's digital economy. With advanced green technologies, the center provides reliable, efficient, and low-carbon computing power for leading financial and AI companies.
This efficiency is part of a much larger national strategy, officially known as East Data West Computing.
Data hubs in the East handle critical and real-time tasks, like placing a food delivery order. At the same time, centers in West manage the heavy computing, such as mapping thousands of delivery routes. It's this seamless teamwork that powers our swift and instant digital world.
The center also acts as a critical gateway, launching massive data loads onto China's digital highway. Now let's follow the data on its journey, a high-speed transit west towards the new epicenters of China's computing power.
I'm standing right at China Mobile Data Center in Guiyang New area. You can hear constant hum of hundreds of servers running non-stop here. You might wonder why a Shanghai-based tech company like uCloud choose to house its critical data over 2,000 kilometers away.
Inside this China Mobile facility, uCloud has already deployed its first 100 GPU units across 60 cabinets. But making sure a server in Guizhou responds instantly to a user in Shanghai requires far more than just traditional storage. It demands deeply tailored, high-performance technical solutions.
Driven by their overall business strategies, our clients are shifting toward intelligent computing. We provide high-density server cabinets with scalable power capacity to handle their flexible workloads. We've also optimized the Guizhou to Shanghai network routing to significantly cut latency.
But keeping these digital engines running is only half the battle. They require massive electricity and constant cooling. That's where Guizhou's unique geography steps in.
Guizhou's abundant green energy and cool climate, averaging 12 to 15 degrees, allow us to use natural cooling for half the year. We use smart airflow optimization to further reduce energy consumption. A client's operating costs here are 30% to 40% lower than in eastern regions.
From a digital payment in Shanghai to a server rack right here in Guizhou, the flow of data has become a new kind of river. Just as the Yangtze River has connected China's east and west for millennia, this integrated computing network is forging a modern digital synergy. By turning Western green energy into Eastern computing power, it's driving a more efficient, coordinated, and sustainable future for the entire Yangtze River economic belt.
That report was presented by Zhang Siren in Shanghai and Gongming in Guizhou. In the southwestern city of Chongqing, a decade of ecological restoration has transformed the Yangtze and its tributaries, turning once polluted waters into thriving rivers and revitalized communities. Yang Jinghao takes a look.
Peng Shiliang is a photographer in southwest China's Chongqing. He has spent nearly half a century documenting his city, from its dramatic landscapes to historic landmarks. One of his most enduring subjects is the Yangtze River, one of the world's longest, nurturing Chongqing and 10 other provinces.
Back then, the water was clear in the 1970s and 80s. But by the 1990s, with industrial development, the river became much more polluted.
10 years ago, a key meeting here in Chongqing set the tone for the future of the Yangtze River economic belt. Chinese President Xi Jinping called for prioritizing ecological protection and avoiding excessive development. This marked a turning point in the region's development path. Since then, Chongqing has made ecological protection a top priority. One example is the Tiaodong River, a tributary of the Yangtze. Today, it runs quiet and clear, but it was once among the most polluted rivers in the city.
Locals used to say the water was as black as ink. You could even write calligraphy with it.
A comprehensive cleanup campaign was launched in 2017. Illegal structures along the riverbanks, covering some 240,000 square meters, were removed, while about 34 kilometers of sewage pipelines were built to collect wastewater.
Building on these efforts, we introduced ecological restoration measures such as an underwater forest system. By creating a network of aquatic plants, it helps reduce pollutants in the water.
And these restoration efforts don't stop at the veins. They extend to the artery, the Yangtze itself. Once muddy and filled with trash, this stretch of riverbank has undergone a transformation. In 2020, authorities began planting flood-tolerant species to create a multi-layered landscape. Today, these restored banks have become a haven for residents and a thriving habitat for a growing number of bird species. Today, smart systems monitor the river in real time, making its protection more efficient and responsive. With technology and vigilance, the Yangtze's future has never looked brighter.
That was Yang Jinghao reporting. We're at 29 past the hour. Beijing down to 9 degrees Wednesday evening. Cloudy conditions in 24 for Thursday. Shanghai will be overcast and down to 10. A light rain developing tomorrow with a high of 20. Chongqing will see a light rainfall overnight and through tomorrow, a low 14, a high of 23. Nanchang has a light rain overnight and 15 degrees, becoming moderate rain and 17. Last is cloudy tonight and tomorrow with a low of 0, a high of 15. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, trade tensions have emerged as a leading topic at the Boao Forum for Asia, now underway in southern China. The Chinese foreign minister has called for dialogue leading to peace in the Middle East in a phone call with its Iranian counterpart. And China's marked 10 years for its transformative guidelines for improving and developing the Yangtze River economy and ecology. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. And right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Ever wondered what's actually going on in Africa through the perspective of an African? How are things really going between China and Africa? What's the narrative of this relationship? Well, get a perspective with China-Africa Talk. Hear from African diplomats, entrepreneurs, academics, Chinese natives, and more. Get on our wavelength every week to find out what's real with China-Africa Talk. Find us on your favorite podcast. We'll see you there.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Wednesday. Still to come. In business, an annual platform for sci-tech innovation is now underway in Beijing. In sports, tennis star Jannik Sinner continues to set records on tour. In culture and entertainment, Chinese films are inspiring a springtime travel boom. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTNradio. Now at the check of the day's headlines, here's Tianlu.
Thank you, Shane. Chinese Vice President Han Zheng has met Kenyan President William Ruto in Nairobi, calling for stronger economic cooperation. Han said China will continue high-level opening up under its new 5-year plan and share development opportunities with Africa. He highlighted China's zero-tariff policy for 53 African countries starting May the 1st, saying it will boost trade and modernization. Kenya welcomed the move, pledging to expand exports and attract greater Chinese investment. Japanese authorities have arrested an intruder who broke into the embassy of China. The suspect is a 23-year-old Japan Self-Defense Forces officer. He scaled the embassy wall Tuesday morning, carrying a knife and issuing threats. Beijing has wrongly protested the act and is urging a responsible explanation. Japanese police called the incident very regrettable and said they would provide round-the-clock security for the embassy compound. Meantime, China has slammed Japan over newly approved high school textbooks that repeat Tokyo's claims over the island of Diaoyudao in the East China Sea. The Chinese Foreign Ministry stressed that the island and its affiliated islets have been Chinese territory since ancient times, and China has indisputable sovereignty over them. South Korea has lodged a strong protest against Japan over newly approved high school textbooks that repeat Tokyo's claims over the Dokdo Islets. The Foreign Ministry summoned a senior Japanese diplomat expressing deep regret over Japan's description of the islets known as Takashima in Japan. The ministry reaffirmed the Dokdo as an integral part of South Korea. It also criticized the misrepresentation of sensitive historical issues such as wartime forced labor and the comfort women. Seoul urged Tokyo to correct the materials and approach history education responsibly, warning that bilateral ties could be undermined. South Korea has maintained effective control over Dokdo since the end of Japan's colonial rule in 1945. A UN official says the world is currently experiencing its most violent period since World War II. Jorge Moreira de Silva said the escalation in the Middle East continues to have a devastating toll on civilians and livelihoods with global ripple effects. The official with the UN Office for Project Services said developing countries in Asia and Africa are likely to suffer the most severe impacts. He said the number of people living in hunger globally is likely to increase by tens of millions this year. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has condemned the killing of at least 60 people in a drone strike on a hospital in the East Darfur region of Sudan. Spokesperson Stefan Dujarric says the World Health Organization has verified over 200 attacks on health facilities in Sudan since the conflict began nearly 3 years ago. Dujarric adds that those attacks have resulted in over 2,000 deaths.
The Secretary-General demands that all parties abide by their obligations under international humanitarian law, which specifically protects medical personnel and specifically protects medical facilities and prohibits attacks directed against civilians and civilian objects. This is not the first time we've had to read these things aloud. He calls on the parties to immediately de-escalate the fighting and agree to a cessation of hostilities.
Guterres again called on the parties to work with mediators to return to the negotiating table to pursue a lasting ceasefire and an inclusive Sudanese-owned political process. Dujarric said the UN stands ready to support genuine steps to end the fighting in Sudan and chart a path toward a durable peace. And finally, the operator of Japan's Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant says it discharged over 55,000 metric tons of nuclear-contaminated wastewater into the ocean in fiscal 2025. Tokyo Electric Power Company Holdings plans 8 discharge rounds in fiscal 26, exceeding 62,000 tons. Since releases began in 2023, despite international opposition, over 140,000 tons have been discharged across 18 rounds.
All right, thank you very much. That's Tian Li with headlines. And coming up in business, an annual platform for sci-tech innovation is now underway in Beijing.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
37 past now. With business, here's Tian Yu.
Thank you, Shane. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Wednesday. The Shanghai Composite gained 1.3%, while the Shenzhen Component rose nearly 2%. Sports and forestry shares were among the top gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index increased more than 1%. In Japan, the Nikkei jumped almost 3%. The 2026 Zhongguancun Forum annual conference is underway in Beijing. The 5-day event is a state-level platform for global exchanges and cooperation in sci-tech innovation. Liu Jiaxing has more.
I'm standing at the heart of Zhongguancun Forum. In the 2026 edition, during the opening ceremony, leaders' remarks focused on bridging the gap between labs and industry development. So this year's theme is integration of technological and industrial innovation. Chinese Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang reaffirmed China's commitment to keep opening up its technological cooperation.
China's science and technology development is inseparable from the world, and the world's science and technology development is also inseparable from China. The door to China's technological openness will only open wider and wider. We welcome all parties to actively participate in the process of China's scientific and technological innovation development and are willing to work together with everyone to build a global scientific and technological community.
Chinese Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang also said how China values Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei as an innovation hub, and he said China will build a more inclusive, innovative network and then to promote technology for good. So across the coming days, we're expecting over 60 parallel forums focusing on frontier fields, including 6G, computing power, brain-computer interfaces, as well as gene and cell therapy, areas where research really meets our real-world scenarios. And there are more competitions, as well as technology trade fairs to come, all to bridge the gap between labs and daily life. This year, we are expecting over 1,000 participants from over 100 countries and regions here also to discuss on talent development. So experts are here to discuss how our education should meet future development. Here's some of my first-hand experiences. For example, AI is everywhere. And you can simply grab a coffee or a meal from the robo bar. Last year, they could offer you a coffee, but this year they've teamed up to offer you a full meal to simply improve your experiences. And lucky enough, you can just catch a performance by robot band. that's what Zhongguancun Forum can offer, from high-level policy discussions to real-world scenarios and immersive technological experiences. It's really a showcase of how innovation is moving from labs to our daily lives.
That was Liu Jiaxing on this year's Zhongguancun Forum in Beijing. Organizers of the ongoing Zhongguancun Forum annual conference have upgraded the forum's smart management system and launched an AI agent. The agent leverages digital intelligence to empower every aspect of the forum, providing robust, smart support for all participants. An AI interpreter is on duty throughout the event, powered by enhanced speech recognition and translation technologies. Improvements have been made in response speed, semantic understanding, and translation accuracy. The number of service languages expanded from Chinese and English to 8, including French, Russian, and Spanish. A new smart meeting assistant is capable of converting real-time meeting speech into intelligent text records. The assistant can automatically extract key points, generate summaries, and create searchable and shareable meeting archives. Various types of embodied intelligent robots have also been integrated into the forums. Many kinds of robots are working in teams to provide diverse services such as consulting guidance and interactive experiences. China's e-commerce sector recorded steady growth in the first 2 months of the year as digital consumption remained robust. The Commerce Ministry says total online retail sales of goods and services rose 9.2% on a yearly basis in January and February. Smart products stood out among the key products monitored by the ministry. Online sales of smart glasses soared nearly 184%, and window cleaning robots surged 130%. The ministry's data also shows steady growth in agricultural products, with online retail sales rising 17.6% in the first 2 months. From January to February, major e-commerce import platforms reported a 7.6% increase in sales of global products. Icelandic salmon, Thai durians, and Brazilian beef were among the most popular items. China's Guoshou telescope has released new data to astronomers in China and international collaborators. The facility in Hebei province is China's first major scientific infrastructure in astronomy. It was named after Guo Shoujing, a renowned astronomer, hydraulic engineer, and instrument maker of the Yuan dynasty more than 600 years ago. Currently, more than 1,900 users from over 270 research institutions in countries including the US, Germany, and Belgium are conducting research using its data. They have published over 2,200 high-quality papers, which have been cited more than 20,000 times. The telescope has been operating for 14 years. Legal proceedings are continuing in the case of Anthropic versus the Trump administration. The AI chatbot maker is seeking to block the Department of Defense from labeling it as a supply chain risk. Mark New has more on the reaction in Silicon Valley.
On March 3rd, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth designated Anthropic, creator of one of the world's most popular AI chatbots, Claude, a supply chain risk. The move came after Anthropic refused to remove guardrails that prevents the U.S. government from using its technology for domestic surveillance or autonomous weapons. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei has long spoken of his concerns.
I'm concerned about the autonomous behavior of AI models, their potential for misuse by individuals and governments.
The Trump administration now wants to blacklist Anthropic from doing business with any companies who do business with the U.S. government. Just hours after the breakup, competitor OpenAI cut a deal with the U.S. government that allowed the Department of War to use their AI for all lawful purposes. At Constellation Researchers' AI Forum in Silicon Valley, tech leaders debate the question, what happens if the government objects to your AI stance?
Should there not be a restriction in terms of like, okay, if you decide to kill people with this, your license is gone. If right. some wrong person get killed, who is the military responsible, or is it the AI company responsible?
Before you launch a product in AI, who do you sue when something goes wrong?
Yeah.
And so, but in the case of the military, the government's using it on the government.
Anthropic can say that, yeah, you if you start killing people, you cannot use software anymore. One option.
So no, actually, I would say no. That right now we live in a Westphalian nation state where the nation state has the monopoly on violence. We have never given that to a corporation.
The dispute with the government has actually given Claude a boost. In early March, it surged past ChatGPT to become the top downloaded free app on Apple's U.S. App Store and the Google Play Store.
I think that there's no issue in Anthropic taking a stance. In fact, that should be applauded. There's no requirement for them to sell to the federal government. Now, that said, it is also up to the federal government who they decide to procure, like who they decide to partner with, how they decide to use that technology. Then we'll leave it up to the courts to figure out what's right and what's wrong.
The legal battle is also prompting companies to re-examine their AI policies.
It's like fear has set back in again because the unknown of what you could do with it, people have become educated and now they see the possibility and the fear of losing control. I think the government's overreacting, right? That's causing our legal team to pay attention and now question a lot of what we're doing.
Companies will need to navigate a rapidly evolving legal landscape. State lawmakers from across the United States have so far introduced more than 1,500 AI-related bills on everything from AI regulation to algorithmic accountability. On March 20th, the White House issued its own blueprint on AI principles, urging Congress to make it federal legislation that would supersede any state laws it feels are stifling innovation.
And that was Mark Neal reporting. And finally, South Korea's consumer sentiment worsened this month amid escalating Middle East tensions. The composite consumer sentiment index declined 5.1 points from a month earlier to 107 in March. According to the Bank of Korea, it marks the first downturn in 3 months. Concerns over inflation and economic slowdown driven by the Middle East conflict, along with heightened financial market volatility, fueled pessimistic economic sentiment. The sub-index for the current economic situation dropped 9 points to 86 this month, while the index for economic outlook tumbled 13 points to 89. Inflation expectations, which look ahead for the next 12 months, added 0.1 points, resting at 2.7% on a monthly basis.
All right, thank you very much. That's TNU with Business. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, tennis star Jannik Sinner continues to set records on tour.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past the hour. Turning to sports now, here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. We begin with a new record in tennis. World number 2 Jannik Sinner has extended his Masters 1000 win streak to 28 sets after defeating Alex Michelsen at the Miami Open. The 24-year-old won 7-5, 7-6 to reach the quarterfinals. Despite the impressive streak, Sinner says records are not his main focus, adding that winning sets means nothing without winning matches.
No, I think it's nice to know, to be honest. Look, I said it already, I play for myself. I'm obviously very happy to be in the position where I am. I know how much I sacrifice, also from the life outside of tennis to be the best possible version of myself, and that's it, and some of the stats, they are just not relevant, Winning sets, it doesn't mean anything, you wouldn't need to win the match.
Sinner broke his previous Masters 1000 streak of 24 sets. He had jointly held that old record with Novak Djokovic. He won the 2025 Paris Masters and the 2026 Indian Wells titles without dropping a set. Alexander Zverev also secured his place in the quarterfinals, battling past Quentin Halys in straight sets. Francis Tiafoe also progressed, beating Terence Atmani in 3 sets. Coco Gauff has reached the semi-finals of the Miami Open for the first time in her career after a 3-set win over Belinda Bencic. The American credited her mental toughness for grinding out the victory. Despite a decorated career that includes 2 Grand Slam titles, Gauff admits she still battles with confidence.
I think I have to believe that I belong where I am. I think sometimes I can get imposter syndrome, and even when they're saying my accomplishments when I walk or during the warm-up, it doesn't feel like me, and I'm like, oh, I actually do have a good career. But it doesn't feel like that sometimes in the moment, because you're working on things, and especially with my serve, it just feels like, I don't know, that I shouldn't be where I am. But tennis doesn't lie, the ball doesn't lie, so I just have to believe myself.
Gauff will look to continue her Miami run as she seeks her first title at the tournament, but she says more attention is on the matches than the title.
Honestly, I'm not thinking about the title. I think I've played enough of these tournaments to know the semis is just as far from the title as the first round, almost in a way. So I'm not thinking about it. Honestly, I'm really just happy and proud to be here. Definitely didn't think this was the year that it would be my breakthrough here, but I'll take it.
Gauff will next take on Karolina Muchova for a place in the final. Muchova made it to the semifinals after knocking out Victoria Mboko in straight sets. Turning to football, China's men's national team is preparing for some friendly matches in Australia. It will be the first games in charge for new coach Xiao Jiayi, who is famous for his playing career with Munich 1860 in the German Bundesliga. China is set to face Curaçao on Friday, which will be the first match for Xiao as the national team coach. Team China has called up a slew of youngsters with 10 under-23 players selected for the fixtures in Australia. Veteran midfielder Wang Xiangyuan says they are well prepared.
The CSL season has been going for 3 rounds. I think we are in quite good form. All the players are fully prepared. Being selected for the national team is a recognition of the efforts we made since the start of the season. I will try to contribute to the national team in both training sessions and matches. The coach has been analyzing our matches and the tactics of our opponents. We need to keep pace with the coach's assignments.
China's U23 squad has regrouped following their run-up finish at the AFC Under-23 Asian Cup. The team will play 3 friendlies in Xi'an. Several players from the previous campaign are back on the senior national team, so only 12 members of the current 24-man squad took part in the Asian Cup. The main goal of these matches is to evaluate candidates for the Asian Games in September. And finally, Belgium has trained at their National Football Center ahead of an upcoming trip to the United States, where they will play 2 friendlies to warm up for the World Cup. The Red Devils are taking on the United States in Atlanta on Saturday and Mexico in Chicago on Tuesday. The team will be without all-time top scorer Romelu Lukaku. Arsenal's Leandro Trossard also opted out of the friendly matches as he continues his rehabilitation from a hip injury. Nevertheless, defender Thomas Meunier said the 2018 bronze medalists are making good progress. The USA has held a training session as well as the players arrived in Atlanta for their 2 upcoming friendlies. They will play Belgium first and then Portugal.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. And coming up in culture and entertainment, Chinese films are inspiring a springtime travel boom.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
52 past the hour. Turning to culture and entertainment, Chinese films have sparked a tourism boom this spring. In Zhejiang province, fans of racing blockbuster Pegasus 3 are flocking to Ningbo and Wenzhou to relive scenes from the film. Yuran reports.
This is Sinopec Zhenhai Refining and Chemical Company. It's located in Ningbo, a major port city in China's eastern coastal Zhejiang province. If you have watched the blockbuster Pegasus 3, you must be very familiar with this location.
After the film's release, this place went viral. Tips on the best shooting spots and timing flooded social media. People were eager to step inside the factory and discover the beauty of industry. But some shot back. Do you think this is a museum or an amusement park? You can just walk right in. Recently, riding the wave of excitement around the film Pegasus 3, Zhenhai Refining and Chemical hosted a fan open day event. Visitors checked out the trending film location, then ventured deeper into the facility to experience a modern refinery in China firsthand. In fact, the company has been holding open days since as early as 2013. Here in the factory, I saw egrets glide above the petrochemical pipes, their white wings weaving through the industrial steel to create a scene unlike any other. It's March. A few early arrivals have already reached the egret garden, with more migratory birds making their way north. In time, some of them will settle here and call the factory home.
Here in Ningbo, film collides with industry. igniting deadly sparks. Nearly 300 kilometers away in Wenzhou, film meets mountains, rivers, and pastoral fields, where time tells its own stories.
The windy mountain road at Jiulong Mountain has become another must-visit hotspot for tourists. In just 9 days of the Chinese New Year holiday, this remote place welcomed 30,000 visitors. This is the magic of the silver screen. A film is no longer just a story, it's an economic engine, driving tourism and fueling new industries. And the numbers speak for themselves. In 2025, every single yuan of box office revenue generates 16 yuan across the wider industrial chain. China's film market is growing, and its story is being written far beyond the cinema.
That was Yuran reporting. Celine Dion's reportedly planning a major comeback concert series in Paris this fall. U.S. and Canadian media report that the singer will perform 2 shows a week in September and October. The news follows teaser posters across Paris featuring her classic hits and a cryptic social media post from Dion on Monday. The Canadian superstar last performed at the 2024 Paris Olympics, marking her return after being diagnosed in 2022 with a rare neurological condition called stiff person syndrome. Her management team has not yet commented on the reports. The Yale Whiffenpoofs a cappella choir has joined a local village choir in Guizhou province for a special cultural exchange. Together they performed a traditional Czech folk song, blending the centuries-old Dong Grand song, known as the oldest form of a cappella in the East, with the Yale group's century-old tradition of unaccompanied harmony. The performance was part of the Whiffenpoofs' 40th anniversary tour in China, highlighting cross-cultural connection through music. A major exhibition of Chinese arts and crafts is now open to the public in Beijing. The National Art Museum of China and the Chinese Folk Literature and Art Association co-organized the exhibition. It features nearly 600 works by around 200 national-level masters. The pieces span ceramics, textiles, carving, lacquer art, metalwork, and folk art. The exhibition has 6 sections and aims to showcase the development and spirit of contemporary Chinese craftsmanship while promoting academic exchanges. We're at 57 past now, checking the forecast before we go. Beijing's down to 9 this evening, cloudy and 24 on Thursday. Shanghai will be overcast and 10, then a light rainfall and 20. Chongqing's getting a light rain overnight and through tomorrow, a low of 14 and a high of 23. Nanchang will see a light rain giving way to moderate rainfall with a low of 15 and a high of 17. Lhasa is cloudy tonight and tomorrow with a low of 0, a high of 15. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will see moderate rainfall and 15 degrees overnight. Thursday, a light rain and a high of 24. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, trade tensions have emerged as a leading topic at the Boao Forum for Asia, underway now in southern China. The Chinese foreign minister has called for dialogue leading to peace in the Middle East in a phone call with his Iranian counterpart. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the Yellow River in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I
don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy, and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters, and what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river, and what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle, and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen, and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts, and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio